Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we will present about Bai Inah and Bai Tawarruq. I am Ashita Al-Bakir. Firstly, we go to Bai Inah. The content of Bai Inah is first definition, legal evidence, modus operandi, component and issues regarding to Bai Inah. Firstly, definition in literal. Bai Inah is sell and buy back. It means the seller sell as an asset to buyer and buy back the same asset. In technical, the selling of an asset with a markup price on deferred payment with the intention to sell the same asset to the debtor with lower cash price, which is meant to settle his debt. Okay, it is a contract where buyer buy asset with deferred payment and sell back with cash. So, the product of Bai Inah, for example, is personal financing. In Bank Rakyat, we can see that they buy the asset from BSAS, which is Bursa Sub Asilah. Bursa Sub Asilah is a place where the bank buy the asset for the contract. Okay, next is the legal evidence. Firstly, from the Al-Quran. Allah SWT has generally legalized sale contract. In Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 275 means that and Allah SWT has permitted trade and prohibited usury. From the ayah, Allah permitted trade to avoid usury. So, Bai Inah he is harus because it is a contract of selling and buying. Okay, for jurists, minority of Muslim scholars considered Bai Inah as a permissible contract. Imam Ash-Shafi'i, Abu Yusuf and Ibn Hazmi are of the view that his contract of sale is not contrary to Sharia principle. Imam Shafi'i said that the analogy same to other contract, which is transfer ownership of the asset. Okay, the modus operandi of Bai Inah, basically, Bai Inah have two contract. Firstly, the first contract is the seller sell asset to the buyer, and the second contract is the seller buy back the same asset from the buyer. Okay, we look for the example as a bank. Okay, we see that A as a bank and B as customer. So A selling an asset to it. So the bank sell the asset to the customer with RM100,000. The price is include cost and markup price. So the customer will pay it with deferred payment. And the second contract is the customer sell back the asset to the bank with RM19,000. So the bank pay cash to the customer. So the customer will get the cash. The aim of the customer is to get the cash, not the asset.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Shazliani binti Yusri. I will proceed the presentation with component of Bai Inah. Component also can be known as pillars. So the first component of Bai Inah is contracting parties. Okay, the contracting parties shall have the legal capacity to enter into the arrangement, which means the person must have sound mind and can differentiate between what is harmful or beneficial to one interest. Okay, so next, the contract must be voluntary and not with coercion. So both of the contracting parties must willingly to enter the Bai Inah contract. Okay, The second component of Bai Inah is asset. Okay, so the asset is recognized by the Sharia and valuable, and it also must give benefit to people. For example, house, car, and so on. Okay, next, the asset already in existence and owned by the seller. As we already know, the seller must own the good first if he or she want to sell the goods to other person or to customer. And then the asset may be tangible asset or intangible asset. Okay, the third component of Bai Inah is price. The price must be determined at the time of agreement made. So the seller must state the price of the asset to the buyer at the time when the agreement made. Okay, then the price must be paid on the spot or by a deferred payment. Okay, if the price need to pay with deferred payment, the time of payment must be stated in the agreement. Okay, the last component of Bai Inah is sirah. The agreement made must be clear between the contracting parties, which means both contracting parties must know the offer and the acceptance that they made. Okay, then the offer and acceptance must be expressed by appropriate documentation or any other method, which means the agreement must be recorded through documentation or through voice record as a reference in the future. Okay, we move to next slide, which is issues in Bai Inah. Okay, as we all know, Bai Inah have been an issue since the beginning because there is disagreement between scholars. So this is the opinion of scholars about Bai Inah. Okay, first is majority of scholars including Hanafi, Maliki and Hanbali prohibit Bai Inah transaction, while Imam Shafi'i, Ibnu Hazm al-Zahiri, Abu Yusuf al-Hanafi permit Bai Inah transaction. So we will go through the justification of the prohibition and the permission of Bai Inah transaction. Okay, first is the explanation of prohibition Bai Inah transaction. Majority scholars prohibit Bai Inah transaction because they thought Bai Inah is as a hilah or trade in a sale to pay off interest. Okay, the hilah can be seen. Okay, look at the modus operandi. The hilah can be seen when the price of the buyback is lower than the price of bank sell the asset to the customer. So it is considered as a hilah to pay off interest. However, if the motive is to help the buyer earn instant money or as much to solve problems, then the Bai Inah transaction is acceptable to them. Okay, then we move to explanation of the permit of Bai Inah transaction. Okay, Imam Shafi'i and other scholars permit the Bai Inah transaction because the Bai Inah transaction follow the pillars and condition of transaction, which I mentioned earlier in the component of Bai Inah. So if the component is complete, then the Bai Inah transaction is permissible. Okay, then Imam Shafi'i explained on the permissibility of Bai Inah in his book Al-Um. Okay, when a person sold an asset with a certain period and then the buyer received it, then there is nothing wrong if he buys back the asset from the one who bought the asset from him at a lower price. So it is okay to sell and buy back the same asset from same person as long as the contract is done in a different time, which means first they sell the asset, then when the contract is done clearly, they buy back the asset. Okay, Al-Inah, which is conclude on an asset with a gap of time between two contract, which is purchase and sell contract. like I said earlier, there must have a gap of time between both transactions. So, Islamic financial institution need to limit the use of Bai Inah contract in their product by using new alternative that had been confirmed by scholars. They have come up with solution in the permissibility of Bai Inah, but then they use the new alternative as a replacement of Bai Inah, which is Bay Tawarruq.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sumayyah binti Abdul Somad. I will continue the presentation with Bai Tawarruq. The content for Bai Tawarruq, we will share about definition, legal evidence, scholar view, condition, pillars, types and application of Bai Tawarruq. First, for definition, Bai Tawarruq in literal come from word al-warid, which is Arabic word, bring meaning of dirham, silver money, or money. And for technical, Bai Tawarruq means buying a commodity with deferred payment and selling it to a person other than the buyer for a lower price with immediate payment. We can also say Bai Tawarruq as purchasing a commodity on credit and selling it to a person other than the initial seller for a lower price on cash. Next, for legal evidence from Al-Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah verse 275, Allah has permitted trade and prohibits usury. So the tawarruq is kind of trade that permissible, except there is a statement from source of Islam that prohibit it. So that from this ayah, there were we use the analogy of qiyas, where the contract is similar to other sales and purchase in term of transfer ownership. So as long as the tawarruq contract is not contain of usury element and prohibit element, so it is permissible to be used. Next, for the scholar view on tawarruq, majority jurists from Hanafi, Shafi'i and Hanbali consider tawarruq is permissible because there is no prohibition and the trade doesn't contain any prohibition element. But it different for Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, which is a jurist from Hanbali. He said in his book that tawarruq is impermissible because have same ilah with usury, which meaning he said that because tawarruq have an activity where buy or sell of deferred payment of ribawi item, which is money. He said that tawarruq is only permissible in necessity situation, which mean darurat, where the person doesn't have any other option that available to give him the immediate payment when he really need it. So the tawarruq can be used at that time. Next is condition of Bai Tawarruq. First, the commodity must be owned by the seller before selling it to the buyer. That is the basic condition. And the second, commodity is specified, where the seller has to explain the details of the commodity to the buyer before sell the commodity. And then possession of commodities is transferable, which means the commodity can be transferred from place to place. For example, metals, cement, rice and car. And number 4, the Bai Tawarruq must avoiding Inah sale, which means the similarity cannot be occur, where if they were to buy the commodity from the client for less than what the client had paid, the contract will be an Inah sale, so that must be avoided. And then number 5, details of the payment time. Of course, for a transaction be made, Bai Tawarruq must the seller must give the details of payment time, and the agreement must be details between the seller and the buyer about the payment time to make it legal. And number 6 is delivery is immediate, which means Tawarruq is based on deferred or installment payment. So if delivery is deferred, the contract will then be a sale of debt for debt. And this kind of sale is prohibited in Islamic law. So deliveries must be immediate and cannot be in the future. Delivery in the future. Okay, thank you.
My name is Nur Faislana. I will continue present about the pillars of Bai Tawarruq, the types of Bai Tawarruq, and also the application of Bai Tawarruq. Okay, for the pillars of Bai Tawarruq, first covenant is original seller, which is the broker 1, final buyer, which is the broker 2, mutawarik, the purchaser or the buyer or the one who seek for the cash, which is the customer, warik, the bank, and also the commodity. Okay, we move to the types of Bai Tawarruq. Types of Bai Tawarruq can be divided into two, which is classical Tawarruq or Tawarruq al-Fard and organized Tawarruq, Tawarruq al-Munazam. Okay, what is classical Tawarruq or Tawarruq al-Fard? Classical Tawarruq is defined as the purchase of the commodity process owned by the seller for a delay payment, where the buyer will resell the commodity for cash to other than the original seller in order to obtain the cash. It means the process where the one who needs the cash immediately will buy the asset from the seller by installment and cash plus profit. And then he needs to find another buyer, which is other than the seller, who willing to buy the same asset by cash but at a lower cost. For the organized Tawarruq or Tawarruq al-Munazam, according to OIC Fiqh Academy organized, Tawarruq can be defined as the bank arrange the transaction where it sells the commodity to the customer by installment, cost plus profit, and at the same time, the bank will act as the agent to the customer, finding the new buyers who willing to pay at the basis cash at a lower price, and then the bank will transfer the fund to the customer. Okay, for the application of Bai Tawarruq, Tawarruq or commodity murabahah is one of the popularly used principles to structure various Islamic financial instruments. Some common Islamic financial instruments that are structured based on the Tawarruq, which is personal financing, and asset financing, such as house. Okay, we can see for the personal financing, the modus operandi Tawarruq in personal financing begins with the bank obtains Tawarruq transaction document from the customer, and then bank buy commodity from the broker 1. Bank sell the commodity to the customer at bank selling price, principal plus profit on the deferred term, and then customer requests bank as its sale agent to sell commodity in the market. In acting as the point of the agent for the customer, bank sell commodity to the broker 2. Bank credits the customer's account with the proceeds from the sale of the commodity, and customer settles amount due to the bank with principal plus profit by way of the agreed installment method. Okay, for the next modus operandi is modus operandi Tawarruq in asset financing. Okay, it begins with the customer approach the bank and apply for the funding by issuing a purchase requisition to the bank and completing the required documentation. Based on this requisition, the bank buy a commodity from the first commodity seller, and then the bank sell the commodity bought from the first commodity seller to the customer based on the murabahah contract with cost price plus the profit, and then the customer appoint the bank as representative based on the wakalah concept to sell the commodity to other commodity seller, and based on the based on its appointment as the representative, the bank will sell the commodity to other commodity seller, and then the bank then deposit the money from the sale into the customer's account. Okay, so basically as you guys can see, there are different between modus operandi between asset financing and house in personal financing. Okay, so this is example of home financing in Bank Rakyat, because actually we do tawaruk in Bank Rakyat, and before the PKP, we had our interview in the Bank Rakyat. So here we are. Alright, thank you.